Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. We're doing your full moon horoscope for the full moon in Cancer happening on January 13th of 2025. That's right. This is the first full moon in the first lunation of the calendar year of 2025. And this is coming in with quite a bang. It's going to be a very intense, emotional, and energizing full moon to say the least. It is happening at 5:27 p.m. Eastern. That is 2:27 p.m. Pacific time, and later on in the late evening and early on the 14th if you're on the other side of the world. This is happening at 24 degrees of Cancer. So just inside the third decan of Cancer, and it is going to be conjunct to Mars retrograde. Now, Mars retrograde is back into the sign of Cancer. It did station retrograde in the sign of Leo at the end of 2024. So this is going to be the main aspect we're going to be talking about throughout this horoscope. Of course, there's lots of other energies that are going on, so we have to touch on all of them, but that is the main one. This full moon is going to be conjunct to Mars, and Mars is actually in detriment in the sign of Cancer. It doesn't do very well in the sign of Cancer, and we're already experiencing this Mars retrograde here. So it's going to be very intense, and it is the first full moon of the calendar year. The moon is at home in the sign of Cancer, so that does give us a little bit of help when it comes to the energies. There's a lot of planets in water signs. We have 5 planets in water signs. The sun, of course, is in the sign of Capricorn. When we have a full moon, we have an exact opposition with the sun and the moon, so that makes the sun at 24 degrees of Capricorn. Capricorn season is really all about our work. It's about the long term. It's ruled by Saturn, right? And when we have a full moon in Cancer, it always happens during Capricorn season when the sun and the moon are exactly opposite each other. The Cancer Capricorn axis is really an axis of security. It's emotional security in Cancer and our practical and 3D security in Capricorn. It's home and work. It's the work-life balance. This is certainly a full moon that is all about our security, our emotional security, as well as our practical security and things that we can do to help balance the two of them. This is also going to be the very first lunation or the first full moon with the nodes in Pisces and Virgo. We've had the nodes in Aries and Libra for the past year and a half. So a past year and a half cycle has come to a close. The North Node is now in Pisces. The South Node is now in Virgo. So there is a lot of astrological energy going on. We have the North Node, which just ingressed into the sign of Pisces, conjunct to Neptune at 27 degrees of Pisces. So this North Node on Neptune is a huge astrological aspect we have to pay attention to. Anywhere the nodes are, the nodal axis is going to be what the collective is heading towards and what the collective is moving away from. The South Node is energy we have mastered, where the North Node is energy that we still need to master. It's a bit uncomfortable in the North Node, but that said, it's the general guiding light or the light at the end of the tunnel that we need to focus on heading towards. Cancer is the 4th sign of the zodiac. It is cardinal water, the first water sign of the zodiac, ruled by the crab, also ruled by the moon. So as I mentioned, the moon is at home here, and Cancer energy is really the divine feminine energy. It's all about your nurturing abilities, your family, your home, your emotions, your intuition. Cancer energy is very gentle, it's very nurturing, it's very caring, it's very sympathetic, it's compassionate, also very sentimental, very much about domestic affairs, the family, homestead, as I said, safety, and providing. So this full moon is happening in the 3rd decan of Cancer. This is a decan that is ruled by the 4 of Cups tarot card. Now I know a lot about the 4 of Cups tarot card because it is a card that used to haunt me a lot. It doesn't so much haunt me anymore, but it's definitely a card of contemplation and not seeing the blessings that are in front of you. If you look at the card, there is a man sitting there with his arms crossed under a tree, and a cup is being presented to him in front of his face, and he's not taking the cup. It's like, take the damn cup. It can represent apathy, contemplation, melancholy, boredom, not seeing the good things in life, not being emotionally fulfilled, being discouraged, having lack of motivation, missed opportunities, being negative, feeling worthless or depressed or emotionally drained. It's a card that's all about taking the opportunity to fill your own cup, taking the cup that's being presented to you, taking the opportunities that are being presented to you. And I definitely think this is going to be a relevant card for this full moon in Cancer, being that it is Capricorn season, but it's also a full moon in Cancer. We have to take the opportunity, and we can't expect everything to be fulfilling all at once. We have to take the blessings as they come. All right, now diving a little bit deeper, guys. As I mentioned, this is a full moon that is going to be conjunct to Mars. Mars is at detriment in the sign of Cancer. Mars in Cancer is very much emotionally volatile. It's emotionally volatile. It's passive aggressive. It can be very protective on the more positive side of things. It can be very ornery, angry, frustrated. We have a lot of explosive energy happening right now. Technically, Mars is still in opposition to Pluto, which just moved into the sign of Aquarius. Even though it's going to be an out of sign opposition now, the opposition is still relevant. So I've gone over the Mars opposite Pluto transit in quite a few other videos, so go check those out if you haven't seen them already. But Mars opposite Pluto is a very intense, explosive, warlike energy. This is a very crabby energy. very agitated, very irritable, can be emotionally impulsive. So be careful that we're not acting impulsively because of our intense emotions at this time, especially during this full moon in Cancer. It's very reactive. It can indicate issues in the home or anger in the home, frustration in the home, also frustration and anger and irritability within us internally. Cancer is a sign that is all about our internal state of being, our emotional well-being. This would be a great time to utilize things like shadow work and being very careful how we're emotionally reacting to things and how we could be exaggerating our emotions in a way. It can definitely be bossy, rude, violent, even aggressive. It can be very sexual, very sexually stimulating, very energizing, quick to anger. But on the bright side, it can also be very courageous, very action oriented. This is a great energy for executing things that you want to execute, doing things that you normally wouldn't have the energy to do. When the moon is conjunct to Mars, this is usually an energy of not being able to sleep. So if you're not able to sleep, I would definitely utilize this full moon for getting things done that you maybe haven't been able to do, especially within the home or within your internal self. You know, do that project that you've been putting off doing, get that cleaning done in the home. This is definitely an energy that you could utilize cleansing or cleaning your physical space or cleansing your physical space, cleansing your emotional space or your mind or your emotions, some sort of energetic cleaning, emotional cleaning, shadow work. Those things could all be helpful. Also working out and getting any physical energy out of your physical body. Now, to add a little bit of fuel to the fire, this full moon is going to be in sextile to Uranus. Uranus is going to be at 23 degrees of Taurus, so it makes it almost an exact sextile to Uranus and Taurus. This kind of just amps things up even more so. Uranus and Mars definitely in a sextile aspect, as well as the moon here. This is really an energy of lots of excitement, lots of stimulation, lots of change, innovation. We could have new ideas. We could be very intuitive. We could be feeling a bit more spontaneous or wanting to do something different, wanting freedom, wanting to express our individuality. It can also very much be about our emotions changing extremely rapidly. The moon is conjunct to Mars, also sextile to Uranus. You know, Uranus really brings things that are very unexpected and like lightning fast. So your emotions could be changing on the drop of a hat, and you could be feeling one way 1 second, or you're feeling a complete opposite way another second, right? You could be feeling angry 1 second while feeling extremely happy and motivated and, you know, ecstatic another second. Our nervous systems could be amped up and we could not be able to sleep, like I mentioned. We could be feeling more energized. We can also gain emotional insight on how to make appropriate changes to better our emotional state and our emotional well-being. I think this is a wonderful full moon for spiritual insights and gaining some sort of spiritual wisdom and or expressing our spirituality, gaining insight into our spirituality, gaining insight into who we are spiritually, our connection with God and the divine. The North Node is conjunct to Neptune, and this full moon is trine to Neptune. So with this full moon in trine to Neptune, this can really heighten that Neptunian energy, which can be very romanticized, very much idealized. We need to be careful with escapism, especially with the North Node conjunct to Neptune. We can be looking at things and not be really clear on where we're headed or which direction we should head in, right? We could be wearing rose-colored glasses, not seeing things clearly. But on the bright side, we can deepen our connection to God and the divine and deepen our spirituality in an essence. This is a very sensitive, empathetic, unconditional love energy. Neptunian energy is like the higher octave of Venus, and it's all about love. It's the spiritual divine love, not so much as romantic love. We could be very creative. This is all about fantasy and dreams. Definitely pay attention to your dreams. Write down your dreams. It's a very clairvoyant energy, so you could be feeling more psychic, more intuitive, or more spiritually in tune. There is a square to Chiron, which I think is worth mentioning. Chiron is in Aries, just went direct in the sign of Aries. We've been dealing with this Chiron transit in Aries for quite a while now. And, you know, it's an asteroid, it's a 4-degree orb, it's not a huge aspect, but I do think it's worth mentioning. We're still working through that Chiron and Aries ego, childlike, wounded part of our identity, figuring out who we are. Also with Uranus and Taurus, it's all about our authenticity and our individuality. But with that square to Chiron, this can bring up wounds of our emotions, wounds of the home, wounds of our childhood, wounds of our parents, right? It's our generational curses. It's our ancestral line, things that have to do with our lineage. And there's a wound or a fracture in the psyche that we're working through with Chiron and Aries in square to this full moon. We're surrendering our emotions in order to heal them. So it's a release point. We're releasing pent-up emotion and pent-up energy. We're not going to live in victim mentality anymore, and we're taking action in order to heal ourselves. The buck stops with us, right? Now, another thing I think is very important that we mentioned, we do have Venus, which is in the sign of Pisces now. Venus is going to be conjunct to Saturn in Pisces for this full moon in Cancer. So this is happening Venus is at 11 degrees of Pisces, Saturn is at 15, so it's not an exact conjunction, but it's still going to be very relevant as we move through this full moon and as we get past this full moon. So this can be a lot of depressive energy. Everything can feel a lot heavier. Our responsibilities can feel a lot heavier. We could feel emotionally and or spiritually blocked, even though this is a time that's about connecting to God and the divine and deepening our spirituality, deepening our connection with God and the divine. We could feel like our intuition, our psychic abilities, and our connection to God isn't there. We could feel like we have blocks in relationships or blocks in money. Venus is both love and relationships and our money, but it's all about our values. It's our value system. Our value system lies in Pisces right now. But Saturn teaches us a lesson, and it's not about quick satisfaction or getting things overnight. It's about the long term and things progressing over a longer period of time. Saturn transits a sign every 2.5 years. It's not going to go through a sign as quickly as Venus does. So when Venus is conjunct to Saturn, we can feel like we're being blocked, but there's some sort of spiritual lesson there that we need to learn. This is a very karmic energy. Saturn is the planet of karma. It's basically a universal test of our value system. Where does our spiritual integrity lie? It's a very sobering energy. It's about maturing in our values, in our relationships, how we handle money. Saturn is very restrictive, and Venus really just wants to enjoy the good things in life. So we could feel like we're not getting any pleasure out of the things we're doing. We're not seeing the value in the things that we're doing, or we're not seeing the results of the things that we're doing. It brings up a lot of things like guilt, fear, sadness, karma. It's, like I said, the universal test of our values. It's challenging us for a reason in order for us to learn that karmic lesson. It's funny too, because with Venus in Pisces at 11 degrees and Saturn at 15, we've had this Saturn-Jupiter square, which I've talked about in other videos, so go check those videos out if you haven't seen them already. They're very much polar opposites because Jupiter is all about expansion, growth, wisdom, and it gets bigger, whereas Saturn restricts things. It's very cold. Jupiter is warm. Jupiter is all about our positivity and our enthusiasm and our growth, whereas Saturn is growth, but it's more delayed growth. It's about pessimism. It's about the past. Jupiter is very much about the future. What I was getting at here is that Venus in the sign of Pisces at 11 degrees is going to be square to Jupiter, which is an interesting energy. But we've had this Jupiter-Saturn square going on, which is really a contrast of values. It's like a push-pull effect. One part of you wants to expand, where another part of you feels blocked from being able to do so. One part of you knows you need growth and you want to take on some sort of opportunity in the sign of Gemini, but in Pisces, it feels like you're blocked or feel like you can't make any progress. With Venus in square to Jupiter, we need to be careful with things like overspending or overindulging in things, overthinking things with Jupiter and Gemini. We need to expand our belief system, expand our value system, and be mindful of where our spiritual integrity lies. We're reshaping our values and our belief systems. We're rewiring them completely. Definitely practice moderation and be careful with overindulgence, overspending, or pessimism. You know, this is an energy of being either one side of the coin or the other. You could be overly optimistic, wearing rose-colored glasses with all this Neptunian energy, being too positive and not really looking at the real side of things, or you can be pessimistic, looking at the past, very restrictive, or blocking your own blessings. So we need to find a balance of both. I think this is an extremely powerful first full moon of the calendar year of 2025. There is a lot of energy going on, and I know it's a lot to process, a lot to comprehend. We have a lot of Piscean, a lot of Neptunian energy. The North Node just moved into Pisces, South Node just moved into Virgo. The North Node is conjunct to Neptune. We have Venus, which is conjunct to Saturn. But it's a full moon in Cancer. It's a lot of watery energy. I would definitely say utilize the water element if you guys practice any sort of rituals or setting intentions for the full moon or the new moon. In general, I would definitely utilize the element of water at this time. We have 5 planets in water signs. It is a full moon in Cancer. So expect things to be a bit emotional. Expect things to be more intense. This is a full moon that's conjunct to Mars. You could be feeling agitated, irritated, angry. We still have that Mars-Pluto opposition, and we have the moon conjunct to Mars. We could be feeling emotionally volatile. Be careful of weaponizing your emotions or being emotionally reactive, acting on your emotions, or being emotionally impulsive. We really need to release these bottled up emotions. I definitely think this is a full moon that is going to emphasize things of the family, things of the home, things of your lineage, your ancestors, your ancestral line, family curses, or generational curses, so to speak. And it's really about releasing pent up anger, pent up emotional tension, or just pent up emotions in general. Expect those emotions to come up and accept them and release them. This is a full moon, so it's the height of the lunation cycle. Things are very energized, and it's even more so energized with it being conjunct to Mars retrograde. But that is all I have for you guys. Happy first full moon of 2025. Happy full moon in Cancer. And this is definitely going to be more prevalent for you if you guys have planets in the cardinal signs. I forgot to mention this. So if you have planets in Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, anywhere from like 20 to 29 degrees, I would say this is a full moon that's definitely going to affect you more so if you have planets or points in the cardinal signs. But personal readings can be found in the description box and or the pinned comment for astrology and tarot. Feel free to shoot me an email if you have any questions about personal readings. But that is all I have for you guys. Happy full moon in Cancer. Happy New Year, and I love you.